But what I wanted to do today is talk to you a little bit about my own story and how I've used nutrition to help myself and to help other people. This is a beautiful picture of myself, nonchalantly lying on a picnic, obviously having with my mum and dad. When I was little, we didn't have any money. We had one of those upbringings where everybody loved everybody, the family was great, there was a lovely environment, and we had no money, but we didn't notice. And I think that's one thing that kind of carried through with the rest of my life. You know, it wasn't the things that we had, it was the experiences and the support that we had that was really important. Obviously, you know, when I did my modelling, this is how I I based it on that. Okay, so I had a lovely first part of my childhood. Getting to secondary school, I don't know how many people in this room would sit here and say, school was the best time of my life. School was the most awful time of my life. I hated every minute of it. I'd been moved up a year because I was clever, so obviously I had no friends. I was bullied for being good at sport, being good at music, being tall, having a dad who was a deputy head. You name it, they found something to have a go at me for. So I absolutely hated every moment of it. Unfortunately, that was the first time I kind of noticed a sense of depression within myself. And I used self-harm as a way of relieving it. It wasn't a cry for help. I didn't want people to notice me or think I wasn't attempting suicide. It was nothing like that. And whenever I did it, I did cover it up. So it wasn't like I wanted people to see it. What I did was that, and it relieved the pain inside, but obviously it didn't really work. And I found a different method. I started to write about all of those dark, sinister thoughts, and I put them on paper. I don't know if you can actually read that from here, but this is a poem that I wrote when I was 11, and it's called The End. And that particular poem was then published. So at the age of 11, I was being published as a poet, which obviously then led to more bullying and people having a go. So I continued with it because I felt alone. I felt like I had no one to talk to. I had no friends. I don't think my family would understand. And I didn't want to put that pressure on them as well. I don't know, if anyone's ever had that experience when you felt, you're isolated and you don't want anyone else worrying as well as yourself. So I utilised the poetry to kind of get me through that. It's a fabulous picture. So going on from there. So when I was at secondary school, I'd had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. I was very good at music. I didn't want to do that because I'd been bullied for it. My dad had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 13. So I became the world's leading expert. I read everything that I could find, and I realised that actually I wanted to help him. He struggled every day, and the doctors had told us that we had possibly 10 years. So the thought of me having my dad with me for 10 years was something that I didn't really want to experience. I wanted to help him to have a longer life if I could do that. So I did a lot of research, and I ended up finding a course which is the Doctor of Osteomyology, perfectly pronounced by the way, and I decided that's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to go to do that course, not to help myself. I could have gone to the Royal College of Music. I decided I didn't want to do that. I wanted to help my dad, and I wanted to help other people. Simultaneously, I'm going to say something very controversial now. My brother had got into the Academy of Hull KR. So I know we're in KCOM, I'm very apologetic, but he wanted to be a professional rugby player. And I thought, well, if I can do a course that's going to help both of them, that's going to meet the needs. I'm going to help my family and give back to them what they gave to me when I was younger. So I started the course, loved every minute of it. I suddenly found myself in an environment where I could actually be myself. I felt very happy. I had friends who understood where I was coming from. They didn't bully me for being good at what I was doing. You get 94% on your neurology paper, and they're all thinking you're amazing. And I found, but the only thing we found was being the only two. There was only myself and my friend Will who were from the north. Everybody else was from down south, and that caused a few issues. They didn't like being beaten by northerners. So I continued my course, and just about 3 months before I finished my degree, my base degree, I had a car accident. I was run over by a lorry on a roundabout, and the fire service came to my rescue. And they sat, I think it must have been about 4 or 5 hours, they sat with me while I was being cut out of my vehicle. And because of my training and the fact that I'd only got 3 months left, I knew that I'd got a really serious injury. And I said, look, I can't feel my legs. I don't know what's happening. I can't feel my legs. No, it'll be shock. You're fine. And I knew it wasn't. So when I was lifted out of that car and went to hospital, and they said to me, we don't know whether you're going to walk. We can't ascertain whether the damage will be repairable. And your life kind of changes overnight. Suddenly you're in a completely alien situation. I was in London doing my course. I had no family. And I was facing this issue. And strangely, I didn't feel scared or depressed. And I wasn't worried about it. I kind of thought, right, well, you don't know whether I'm going to walk, which means that I could. And I spent most of my time trying to prove, a little bit like Michelle was saying, disprove these people. I wanted to say to them, you know what, you said I couldn't, I'm going to do it. You saying that I might, I will. And that's what I did. And I kind of got myself back, and I had an awful lot of medication. The picture on the left is me on massive quantities of meds, 25 different tablets a day, steroids inclusive, very, very addictive painkillers. And I got to a point where, in 2005, the pain was just so intense. I can honestly say that I wanted to kill myself. Not because I was depressed, because I wanted the pain to end. And the pain was just insane. I can't even describe it. 25 different medications, some dihydrocodeine, and suddenly I'm still in the same quantity of pain that I was in before. And I thought, well, I can't live like this. I'd just met my now husband. We'd been together for 2 months. And obviously, you just start a relationship. What you're supposed to be doing is taking each other's clothes off, I guess. And that wasn't happening. He was having to help me get dressed. He was having to get me out of the bath. He was having to help me get to work. And, kudos to him. He stayed with me, and he could have walked. But I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to live like that. So I did something very drastic, and I took myself off every medication, which I would never advise anybody to do. I had 3 months worth of cold turkey, which was horrific. And I decided that I would change my diet, my exercise, everything about my life, and just try and make myself better. Because by that point, they told me it was inoperable. They couldn't do anything for me. And I was left with no options other than to try and help myself. And I'd tried everything. I tried aromatherapy. I'd tried, if someone had said to me, stick a toad on your head and go to sleep, I'd have tried it, believe me. But I didn't. So I ended up having to investigate how my food was affecting my pain. And that's how I kind of ended up getting more into the medicinal kitchen side of it. So my background was medicine, and I'm very, very research-based. And I thought, well, I'll have to experiment on myself, because I've got no other subjects. And that's what I did. And the result was I lost a phenomenal quantity of weight by absolute accident. Now, the problem was I wasn't unhappy being overweight. I was in pain. I hadn't really identified with the fact that I was going to lose weight. And I didn't know who I was. So I actually was more depressed after I'd lost weight and having less pain than I was while I was in pain, which was really backwards as far as I was concerned. Made no sense. Okay, so I went to see my surgeon. I told him what my plan was, and he said to me, well, I can't do anything, you might as well do what you want. And I thought, right, okay, fair enough. so I thought, right, brilliant. And he said to me, the only thing I'd say to you is you need to get down to 9 stone. Once you're at 9 stone, I might be able to do an operation. Now, I'm not small, and 9 stone is well underweight for my height, but that planted that seed. And I ended up having a mission. My entire focus to get my mind off the pain, my mind off the injury, my mind off the fact I couldn't do anything, I was struggling to go to work. I thought, right, that's it. I've got to get to 9 stone, because then it'll be okay. Everything's going to be fine. And I got down to 8, and then I got down to 7.5, and then it became apparent that I'd become anorexic. So it wasn't until my brother said to me, you've taken this too far, that I thought, actually, I need to do something about this. So I switched from all of my ideas of how the food was going to take my pain away to how I could make myself better. And my focus completely changed. That's a picture of me, not at my smallest, but I was pretty skeletal when I got my award for that. So my plan for Medicinal Kitchen was kind of formed. And I realised that if I was struggling and I was having these issues, there were probably other people that were having the same issues or similar. And there's nowhere really you can go that has one source of information. If there's all bits of information all over, you've probably Googled stuff on the internet. There's bits here, bits there, and most of it's contradictory. So I thought I'm going to put everything in one place so other people can have this resource, and that's what I did. And then in 2014, a male family member was diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer. I'd lost my cousin to breast cancer. My grandma had breast cancer, and I thought, I'm going to go to the doctors. And so I went to my GP. It sounds like a tale of woe, this. Isn't it? It's just kind of how I've got to where I am. So I went to my GP and I said, look, there's all this cancer in my family. I need to see if I've got some sort of gene. And so I went to genetics, and she went through my whole history, the history of your family with your cancer, what ages they were. And she said to me, are you Jewish? And I said, well, not to my knowledge. But I rang my dad, and he said, we've got Jewish ancestry in our family. They're from Persia. I thought, right, okay. Went back to the woman. She said, you have this gene, which is a Jewish gene, and it means you're predominantly going to get breast cancer, brain cancer, skin cancer, and pancreatic cancer. And I said to her, okay, that's great. What do we do? And she said, you're taking it very, very, very well. And I said, well, I can't do anything about it. It's genetic. The only thing I can do is monitor myself. There are steps that I can take. And I'd made a decision that I was going to have a double mastectomy. I already had made my mind up. So when it came back on my scan to say, yes, you do have breast cancer, I wasn't shocked. I wasn't traumatized, because I'd already made up my mind what I was doing anyway. And my Medicinal Kitchen stuff, all the research that I'd done, actually helped me put in a plan in place. And that plan meant that it was a little bit more like a military operation. I hit the gym, I hit the cardio, I made sure that I was physically in the best possible shape that I could be to go into an operation. And I did that, and then I put out my meal plan. I had a pre-op meal plan, I had a post-op meal plan, and it was literally planned out to the letter. And it worked for me psychologically, because I felt like I had control. It wasn't me going into a room and somebody saying, we're going to do this to you, which is what had happened to me when I had my back injury, my spine injury. This time I felt like I was calling the shots. I was saying, look, this is what I want to happen to me. And it was the best way that I could handle it. So 2014 October, they told me I had breast cancer. In the February following, I had an operation. And now, it might just be me and my stubbornness, but I was back at work treating my patients physically after 3 weeks. And most people would have to have 3 months off work. And I wouldn't suggest people aim for 3 weeks. However, it was something that I felt I was capable of doing. I went back to work and I was fine. And psychologically for me, because I was entering a phase of normality, it was helping me from get over what had just happened. So then I was approached by Cancer Research UK. He really liked my story. And then they said to me, will you do a photo shoot for us? Will you do a campaign? And I thought, I hate the picture taking. I hate that. I don't want to be in front of the camera. And so I contacted one of my friends who's a photographer, and I said, look, this is what they've asked me to do. I hate being in front of a camera. I want a friend to take the pictures, because that way I'm going to feel slightly more comfortable. And I ended up doing this photo shoot, which in my head I decided I was going to cover 2 points. I wanted to prove that women could still look feminine post-op after mastectomy, and I wanted to prove that obviously there's that strength and that inner strength that helps you to get through it. And not just obviously this, but a lot of other operations and situations as well. So that was kind of what I ended up doing. And it went national, and I actually ended up on page 3 of The Sun, which was really weird. And I made sure my dad didn't look at the paper, because I don't think he'd be very happy about it. But yeah, it was a good experience. And I have to strangely say that I've had a lot of positivity from having cancer. And I know that's not things that people always say, but I was able to do this. I've been able to help a lot of women, a lot of men, because a lot of people have reached out to me while I was going through it. I was very positive. I was very open. Anything that happened, I would talk honestly about. People asked me a question, I would answer it absolutely honestly. And then, ironically, because of cancer, I ended up with my own chat show on a local TV company, and I've also had a top 40 chart hit. which if you'd have said that to me 10 years ago, I would have literally laughed at you. So there have been positives with cancer, but obviously there's been a lot of negatives as well. I think the most stressful part of my life was when I had to give the solo speech at my friend's funeral when she died. And I think possibly that was a combination, obviously. She'd been diagnosed at the same time as me. She'd passed away. I'd watched her go through that horrific problem and slowly fade. And then obviously the stress of being the only person to speak. And on top of that, because of the 3 months I've been helping her beforehand, my diet had gone completely out the window and I was basically living on vodka. It's not how you handle situations. Certainly not how it works for me. So that's kind of how I've got to where I am. And then I decided that obviously the pain was one element that food could help. But the nutrition side for me, it's beyond just eating well for weight loss, which is what most people tend to think of. Now, I don't know if any of you read anything about how anxiety, stress, mental health is affected by food, but the first thing that I came across was a study in America, and this study was amazing. They took all of the people who were in mental health hospitals that were residents, and they put them on a gluten-free, wheat-free diet. And those people, 80% of them came off their medication completely and showed no symptoms, and then the other 20% had shown improvement. Now, the problem you have is when those people are feeling better, keeping them off the gluten and the wheat, that had obviously helped them to get better. But I thought, well, okay, I'll experiment on my own family. My dad had become quite depressed. He'd had to give up work because of the illness, and my husband's depressive. So I had 2 guinea pigs who didn't know they were guinea pigs, and I changed their food, I changed their diet, I spoke to my mum, I made sure we took everybody off gluten and wheat, and the results were incredible. And I know that obviously that's only 2 people, so I thought I need to try this with patients. So if my patients were coming in and they were saying to me, look, I'm not very happy, I feel depressed, this pain's getting to me, I said, well, just try removing this from your diet. Don't do anything else, just try removing gluten. And the amount of people that felt better, it's not instantaneous overnight, and I'm not saying that it's a cure, but it does help you to keep yourself a little bit more level. And that was one of the biggest things. Now, I can't talk about everything to do with nutrition, I've only got a little bit of time, but it is something that I found really is a key. And if my husband now goes out and has a sneaky McDonald's, which he's quite tempted to do regularly, I can tell because he'll come in and even his body language has changed. So that is almost an instantaneous recognition of the body for something for him that is quite toxic. I decided I'd put a recipe book / resource information booklet together. And I don't know if anyone's heard of State of Mind, the rugby charity, yeah? Oh, perfect. Then I was doing a lot of work with them. I was on their panel, the board of trustees, and I was a presenter. And I said to them, look, I can do this. I'll put this together, and then we can sell it, and then the proceeds can come to you as a charity. And I worked with them and Anxiety United, who were another charity. And I split the proceeds of the book. So it's completely, obviously for me, non-profit. And everybody who chipped in, so the design guys did it for free, the people who printed it off for me did it for free. And we were able to make quite a lot of money to help Anxiety United and State of Mind when they were setting up. And that was an amazing, for all of my research, that really did help me to feel better. And I know that sounds a bit odd, but it did. Sugar. Sugar is massive in the news, isn't it? Nobody should eat sugar. Sugar's terrible. Yeah, sugar's a stimulant. It does affect people who have a tendency to have anxiety, people who tendency to be stressed. Sugar's one of the key things. If you have a very high sugar diet, you are putting an awful lot of stimulant into your body, and it will enhance your symptoms. If you cut it down, obviously your symptoms are going to go away. Nobody's ever going to get rid of stress, anxiety. I was stressed coming today. I shampooed my face, all sorts of stuff. Because talking to a whole bunch of people I don't know if you're going to laugh at my jokes or think I'm, crazy or something. But everybody has that. It's whether the level of it is manageable. And if you can do anything in your diet to tweak that, to make sure that it is manageable for you on a day-to-day basis, then that's fine. Now, I can probably assume that most people don't get up and come and think to themselves they're stressed before they go to work, because you're all confident in what you're doing and you know what your job is. If you then take yourself into a situation which isn't normal for you, that's when you're likely to experience more stress anxiety. Depression's a whole different thing. But if you can tweak it, it makes sense that you're going to do something to help yourself. Avocados. The most Instagrammable thing, apparently. Use the hashtag avocado, you'll get loads of followers, you'll get loads of likes. And it's kind of become this trendy food, which is, great. There's nothing wrong with an avocado. Some people would say don't eat it, it's high fat. But it does have benefits. The South Americans call it the testicle plant because apparently it helps you increase your libido and your fertility. Now, part of the reason it does that is because of the level of useful essential fatty acids it contains in it. So if you have depression, one of the things that I've noticed happens is that you end up with a lower libido. Your sex drive goes. You don't want to have that intimacy. I'm not saying that avocado is going to cure you, but it's going to help. And it will, if you're eating anything, like so the fish oils, if you have that, salmon, if you're eating salmon, nuts, almonds are very good. Almonds are also an aphrodisiac, so gents, if you put almond oil on yourself, apparently that makes you irresistible. Again, I haven't tried it, but it might be better or cheaper than Lynx, so I'm not sure. But yeah, it's got essential fats in it that we need. Now, the neurological, without being too technical, the neurological system, all of your nerves are coated in a myelin sheath, which is made out of fatty acids. If you don't have enough fatty acids in your diet, your body will then start to take those. So it will take away the myelin sheath from your nervous system to use for essential work, because that's what it is, it's essential. If you do that, your nerves don't fire properly. If that's happening in your brain, all sorts of stuff can go wrong. And one of those things is, it changes how your brain patterns work. So making sure that you eat enough essential fatty acids is really, really important. Dark chocolate. Who doesn't like chocolate? I love chocolate. I have chocolate every day, but I have dark chocolate because the amount you're supposed to eat apparently is something ridiculous. I don't think I've ever eaten the quantity to stop me getting Alzheimer's. But if you have dark chocolate, the sugar's low in it, the milk's low in it, but it has got an awful lot of antioxidants, and it's supposed to be very good to stop you getting Alzheimer's. I'm not sure. Watermelon, however, is like apparently nature's Viagra. So if you eat watermelon, it has the same vitamins in there that will make you have a very long sexual experience, apparently. So yeah, please feel free to try that and then let me know how you get on. That'd be great. I haven't experimented with that one. So a lot of people ask me about carbs. Should you eat carbs? Yes. I would say yes, you need carbs in your diet because you need to have energy. The choice of carbs is really important. If you're picking things like the wheat-based pastas or bread, then those have got elements in them that could potentially affect you in other ways. Black rice, normal white rice, anything like that, that's natural as it can be. Quinoa, I don't know how you say it. Quinoa, again, is useful, and they're quite high in protein as well. So they can help you to sustain your own energy levels, which keep you going through the day. And obviously, then it means that your body's not distracted. If you have a protein and fat diet, then obviously the fats are quite protective, but you do need an element of carbs and energy source from somewhere. Otherwise, your body will use your protein, and then it'll start to destroy your muscles because it'll get a little bit needed. So, that's my summary. If you've got anxiety, sugary foods, white rice, pasta and bread. Stress, exactly the same. For depression, stimulants, fizzy drinks, alcohol, a little bit like Michelle was saying, she finds alcohol a depressive. I don't tend to drink very much, but I can honestly say when I was drinking when my friend was poorly, I was perpetually depressed. I know the situation was dire, but I wasn't helping myself to cope with the situation. I do have a coffee addiction, so I don't take that out of my diet completely. And anything that you do, you need to do it for a minimum of 2 weeks. If you say to yourself, I'm going to take out wheat and I'm going to take out dairy, and you do that, but you only do it for a couple of days, you're never going to see whether it made any difference. Do it for a minimum of 2 weeks. Adding in the other foods as well, you need to do that as long as you possibly can do, really. And but I wouldn't say this is going to cure anybody, and I wouldn't say that, this is the solution, but it will help you to manage your symptoms a little bit better. The most difficult thing, I think, is actually applying it to your life. I'd noticed with my dad and obviously my husband and people that I know that have depression, if you have those feelings and you don't want to do anything, you don't want to change your diet, you don't want to get out and exercise, and that's one of the things that drives me crackers about the wellness and fitness industry. It's very simple for them to say the best antidepressant is exercise. It is, but you have to be in that frame of mind to actually go and exercise in the first place. You have to be in the frame of mind to change your diet, because if you're not going to want to do it. So I do find it useful if you've got like a buddy or a partner or somebody that you can actually say to them, look, I want to do this, but I need your help. So, like, my husband's quite lucky because I just make him do it. He doesn't have a choice. He gets told off if he has McDonald's. I don't mind him eating McDonald's, but not the bread. So he's got that. My dad has my mum. She helps him to keep him on track. And I think it's quite important to talk about what you're going through. I didn't talk to anybody when I was growing up. And it internalized all of those pains that I had, and that became an issue. When I started talking about my problems, they didn't go away, but I felt a heck of a lot better because other people are going through the same thing. And as much as you don't feel like they are actually going through that same thing. So that's what I'd like to finish on, really. You need to talk, make small steps. If you can make little changes, then it will lead to bigger improvements. That's it.